Here's a neat trick where you can use your left hand in order to figure out the coordinates of the points that are on the unit circle for quadrant 1. It takes your left hand and you have to put it palm facing toward you like this. When you do that, your fingers kind of look like they're in the right places for the angles that are here in quadrant 1. This angle is 0 degrees or 0 radians. This one would represent 30 degrees or pi over 6 radians. This one's 45 degrees or pi over 4 radians. This one is 60 degrees or pi over 3 radians. And this one is 90 degrees or pi over 2 radians. The rules are when you're using your hand in order to find the coordinates of the points on the unit circle is whatever numbers you get off your hand, you're going to take the square root of that number and divide it by 2. And also with this, we can get both the x and the y. The x's are above whatever finger we have folded down, and the y is whatever we have below the finger we have folded down. We're going to fold down the finger that represents the angle that we're looking for. So I'm going to go through a few of the angles, and then we'll compare them with what I have on the paper here. We'll start with 30 degrees. So if I go to 30 degrees, this angle, this finger represents the 30-degree angle. So I can fold that one down. I see then I have 3 fingers above the one I have folded down, and I have 1 finger below it. The x value I'm going to get using the number of fingers above it. And remember, the rule is whatever I get off my hand, I'm going to take the square root of that number and divide it by 2. So for my x value, I'm going to take the square root of 3 and divide it by 2. So that would give me square root of 3 over 2. And if I look on what I have on my paper here, with the 30-degree angle, this one here, the x-coordinate of that point is square root of 3 over 2. Now for the y value, I look at the number of fingers that's below the finger that I have folded down, and I see that I have 1 finger below that. So my rule is I take the square root of that number and I divide it by 2. So the square root of 1 divided by 2, well, let's see, the square root of 1 is just 1 over 2, so that would make that 1/2. So the y value that goes along with that is 1/2. This works for all of the angles here in quadrant 1. Let's look at 45 degrees now. So on my picture, that would be this angle here. Using my fingers, the 45-degree angle would be represented by the middle finger. So I would fold this finger down. When I do that, I see that I have 2 fingers above the one I have folded down and 2 fingers below it. And I follow the same rules. I take the square root of whatever I get from my hand and I put it over 2. And I get the x from above my finger and the y from below the finger that's folded down. So for the x, I see that above my finger folded down, I have 2 fingers. So I would have the square root of 2 divided by 2. So my x value should be square root of 2 over 2. And I see on my picture that that is exactly what it says. Now for the y value, I have 2 fingers below it, and so I would take the square root of that, so square root of 2 divided by 2, following my same rules every time, and my y value is also square root of 2 over 2. 60 degrees can be done similarly. With 60 degrees, I would fold down my index finger. Then I see above it I have 1 finger, so the square root of 1 over 2 would be my x. I see that's 1/2 here. And below it I would get my y. I have 3 fingers, so the y value would be the square root of 3 over 2. And I can see that on my picture also. So all that's left now is 0 degrees, which is down here, and 90 degrees, which is up here. So let's look at those. If I do 0 degrees, then my finger that represents 0 degrees would be my pinky. So I'm going to take that and fold it down. I still get my x from above it and my y from below it, and I follow the exact same rules. So whatever I get from my hand, I take the square root of it and I divide it by 2. So above the finger that I have folded down, I have 4 fingers. So I'll take the square root of that, square root of 4, and divide it by 2. The square root of 4 is 2. So that would be 2 divided by 2, which is 1. So that means my x value for 0 degrees should be 1. And I see that on my picture. Now for the y's, I look at the number of fingers below, and below it I have no fingers. So that would be the square root of 0 divided by 1. Sorry, square root of 0 divided by 2. The square root of 0 is just 0. 0 divided by 2 is still just 0, so the y value is 0. That works similarly for 90 degrees. You just use your thumb, and you'll see it's 0 above and square root of 4 over 2 below. Okay, that's how you can use your left hand in order to find the coordinates for the first quadrant of the unit circle.